Hi, it's Jackie with Panama Relocation Tours. Thank you so much for joining us. I really want to give a special shout out to some people that are here every single Saturday. We have our regulars that come, a couple hundred people that come every single Saturday. And I just want to thank you so much for being here and also welcome to all of you new people that it's your first time to come to our YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be talking about all the steps, the 7 steps that are necessary for you to leave the United States or Canada or England or wherever it is that you're moving to. It's really broken down into 7 steps. And I've figured out over the years of helping thousands of people move to Panama that if you say we're going to move to Panama, it's a big undertaking. But if you break it down into, we'll do this first and do that second and do that third, then it makes the whole process so much easier. And you have a game plan. That's one of the reasons in our complete Panama relocation guide that we have a 6 month checklist to make sure that you do all the things that you need to do and nothing falls through the crack in your move. But before I get started on our topic for the day about the 7 steps for leaving the United States, for the benefit of those that it's your first time to be on our channel, I just want to let you know that my name's Jackie Lang. I'm the owner of Panama Relocation Tours. And since 2010, we've been offering all-inclusive 6 day, 7 night tours that go all the way across Panama to show you all the different places you could potentially live. And the whole time the bus is moving, we're on a microphone teaching you the important things you need to know to have a smooth move. We're currently doing tour number 223. We also offer private tours, and today we have 11 private tours going on all over the country. So we have a lot of different ways to help you have a smooth move to Panama. So just a second, I've got some notice over here that's coming up. So what I want to start out with is your number one thing that you need to think about. These are 7 things I'm going to talk about. The number one thing that you need to think about is really do some soul searching and think about, why do I want to leave? I know for some people it's a financial reason. It's just gotten so expensive where you live that you need to move to some place that's a little bit more affordable. Even if it's not expensive, too expensive where you live right now and you're just getting by, you have to think 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road. What's it going to be like? Property taxes, insurance, all the other costs that there are. And, some people have decided that they would rather move as soon as they can so that they can just enjoy life and not always be worrying about finances all of the time. Some people move to Panama or some other country just because they want to, it's been on their bucket list to live in another country, experience another culture. And it doesn't have to be a forever move. Maybe it's a 1 or 2 or 3 years or forever that you're going to move to another country. But it's just something that some people want to do, is to live in another country. And then, especially since the pandemic, some countries have gotten, the rules have changed a lot in some other countries to where, many people say they don't even recognize their country anymore because it's just changed so much. They don't have as many freedoms that they had. There's more restrictions. And, people just don't want to live like that. So you're going to have a lot more freedom if you come to Panama. But whenever you do move to Panama, you need to determine if Panama is the right place for you, because it might not be. It's not right for everybody. Some people just don't like it because it's not just like North America, or it's not just like Europe. But some people don't like it because it doesn't have certain things that they have to have in their life. So you really need to make a list of what are the things that you must have that would be deal breakers for you. If Panama didn't have them, it would be a deal breaker and it wouldn't work out. So I encourage all of you to make that list. For some people, they have to have a house with a dishwasher. I know, and that's a little bit hard to find here. Some people have to have a house with a tub. That's a little bit hard to find here. But also maybe some people are used to going to Whole Foods all the time for their shopping. Well, there's no Whole Foods here in Panama. There's no Walmart. There's no Neiman Marcus. So you need to think about what things are the most important to you and what things that would be absolute deal breakers that if Panama didn't have them, it wouldn't work for you. And do that before you even come. And there's a lot of research you can do on Facebook groups, on our YouTube channel, watching other videos from people, just sending emails to me at info at Panama Relocation Tour saying, does Panama have this? Perhaps you have a special illness and you need a special kind of doctor that may or may not be available here in Panama. So if it's not available, that could be a deal breaker. Or if there's a certain medication you take and it's not available here in Panama, or it's extremely expensive here in Panama, that could be a deal breaker. So make that list of things that you have to be happy here in Panama. I think you'll find most people are going to find that Panama has everything that you need, but some people won't. So you just need to determine what are the most important things to you. For me, whenever I moved here, and we all have different reasons. Every one of us has different reasons. My most important thing for me is I wanted to live in a place where I would never need an air conditioner or a heater again. Some people move to Panama and they have to live by the beach, and you can certainly do that, but that was not my objective. My objective was to live in a place where I would not need an air conditioner. Coming from Texas, you're just living in an air conditioner probably 9 months out of the year, and then a heater the rest of the time. So I never got fresh air. And I've been so blessed to live here in Panama where I don't need an air conditioner and I can just have my windows open and get fresh air all the time. It's just a healthier way to live. But what's important to you? What are going to be the things that you absolutely have to have in your life? The other thing that you need to think about is whenever you move to Panama is what's your budget going to be? How much money are you going to have to spend totally per month, including your rent, health insurance, car insurance, gasoline for your car, eating out. But you need to determine what your budget is and then know if that budget is going to work here in Panama. And there's some places that it might work very, very well. There's other places that it's not going to work at all. So you need to determine what your budget is, and then we can help point you in the right direction of where that budget is going to fit in on certain towns. For example, if you want to live by the beach and you have a budget of, let's say, $1,200 a month, well, that's not going to work in the Coronado, San Carlos, Gorgona area. It won't work there. But on $1,200 a month, you could afford to live on the beach communities on the eastern Azora or even the western Azora. But it's not going to work in Coronado. So based on your budget and the weather you prefer, there is a place that's going to work here in Panama. It just might not be exactly where that you want to be. By the way, if you could hold off on your questions at the end of the live stream and me talking about all 7 of these things, then I'll let you know when you can start asking questions, and you'll need to put 3 question marks in front of it so I can quickly and easily identify it as a question. Right now, I see lots of little comments that are coming up on the side, and I can't read those and focus on my list of things that I have to talk about. So I'm just going to focus on the things I need to talk about. You guys can have your conversation over there, but I want to get this information out to you. So after you've made your checklist of the deal breakers, some of the things that you might say is you've got to be 30 minutes from a hospital. You might want to have some really nice restaurants that are close by. Perhaps there's certain things that you like in your diet, like maybe you only want organic food. Well, some places in Panama are going to have that. Some places are not going to have organic food readily available. Some other things is, can you even qualify for health insurance in Panama? If you have pre-existing conditions, they're going to be excluded. You may be able to get health insurance, but any pre-existing conditions would be excluded. So not being able to get health insurance in Panama could be a deal breaker for you. Some other things, I've got my notes here. Some other things, we've talked about the weather, but also if you don't know Spanish, and most people moving to Panama, they don't know Spanish, but there's places where you can live in Panama where you can get by just fine with knowing minimal Spanish, very little Spanish. There's other places in Panama where you're going to need to learn a lot more Spanish. So are you willing to do that? Are you willing to learn some Spanish? It's going to make your experience here in Panama a lot more enjoyable if you do, even if it's just, how to say hello, how to say thank you, how to say, may I have my check, please, at a restaurant. But if you're willing to learn some Spanish, then you're going to do just fine. If you're not willing to do Spanish, then Panama might not be the place for you. So make that list of things that are important to you. Okay, number two of things that are most important for you to do is find out before you even come here, are you eligible to live here? And what I mean by eligible is, can you get a residency visa? As a tourist, you can only stay in Panama for 180 days. But if you want to move to Panama and live here indefinitely, you're going to have to get a visa. There's a lot of different visa programs that are available. Some you'll qualify for, some you won't. One of the most popular visas is for retirees. It's called the Pensionado visa, and you need at least $1,000 a month in lifetime income to qualify for that visa. If you're married, you need an additional $250 for your spouse. And it has to be something like a government pension, a pension from a company that you worked for a long time, Social Security, military retirement, or something like that to qualify for that visa. If you have an annuity, that doesn't count. If you have a 401k, it doesn't count. If you have $1 million in the bank, it doesn't count for a pensionado visa. So you need to determine, do you qualify for a visa, and which visa do you qualify for? There's also the Friendly Nation visa. If you go to our website at Panama Relocation Tours, and if you, in the search feature, type in other visas, then you can see some of the other visa options that are available and see if any of those fit the requirements on what you're looking for. Also, to get a visa, you have to present a national criminal report. And if there's anything on there, if it's not completely clean, if there's a felony or an assault charge, you're not going to be able to get a visa in Panama. So you can kind of skip the rest of the live stream today if you have a felony, because you're not going to be able to come to Panama. Or we can come to Panama, you just can't live here. But also, we talked about insurance also, if you qualify for insurance or not. Of course, you're going to need a passport to travel internationally. So if you don't already have a passport, you need to go ahead and apply for that, because it's taking a little bit of time. I've heard 3, 4, 5 months to get a passport. So if you're thinking about moving overseas, whether it's Panama or Mexico or Portugal or whatever country, it all starts with getting a passport so that you can travel. So you need to get that passport. Also, if you already are taking medications, you need to determine if Panama has the medications you take here in Panama. Some medications they don't have, or some medications here are very expensive, and you may be able to get them from an Amazon pharmacy, but maybe you can't, depending on what the medications are. Once again, you can go to our website, Panama Relocation Tours, and in the search feature, type in drug, D-R-U-G, and there's a link in there for 2 different pharmacies. It's a pharmacy value, and there you can put in the name of the medication that you take, and it'll tell you if it's available at that pharmacy and what it costs. If pharmacy value doesn't have it, it doesn't mean it's not available at a different pharmacy, like a hospital pharmacy, but it'll just give you a general idea of, is it available and what's it going to cost from that one pharmacy. If the medications you take are not available, or if they're very expensive, then Panama might not work for you. Also, you should know that even if you get health insurance in Panama through the Panama Health Insurance, it doesn't cover medications. So you're going to have to pay for medications out of pocket. That's why you may want to establish something like Amazon Pharmacy, where it may be cheaper than it is here in Panama. Some people say that the medications they took were $150 in the United States, and they're only $25 here in Panama. Other people say the medication they took in Panama, they could get it for $25, but in Panama it's $150. Why in the world there's that difference, I don't know, but there is a difference. So it's an important thing that would be part of, are you eligible to move to Panama? Because if your medications are not available, then Panama might not work. unless, of course, you're willing to fly to another country like Colombia or fly back to your country and get a 6-month supply of your medications, if you can even do that, every once in a while. So it's certainly something that you need to determine about being eligible. If you do have anything on your criminal report, like DUIs or misdemeanor drug possession charge or something like that, I would highly recommend that you go ahead, if you think that's going to be on your criminal report, go ahead and get a copy of your national criminal report. If you're a U.S. citizen, that's an FBI report, or RCMP if you're from Canada, but whatever it's called in the country where you live, go ahead and get that report. And if there's anything that shows up at all, I would highly recommend that you contact an immigration attorney and send them, email them, or WhatsApp a copy of your national criminal report and say, what are my chances of getting a visa with these things that are on here? And they'll tell you that before you go too far down the rabbit hole of moving to Panama. We have a list of immigration attorneys in our complete Panama relocation guide, but you could just contact any attorney to find out, what am I going to be able to even get a visa based on what's on my national criminal report. Some countries, like Mexico, you don't even have to show a criminal report. So if you have things on your criminal report, if you can't move to Panama, you may have to move to a different country where they're not so strict as Panama is. And then the third thing that you need to do in your plan to move to Panama is come for a visit. Once you know that you're eligible, once you know you've created your list of deal breakers, and Panama has the things that you really want here, whichever area that you're planning to move to, the things are available. You're eligible, you can get health insurance. Once you know those things, the next step is to come to Panama for a visit. Of course, an easy way to do that is to take an all-inclusive 6-day, 7-night Panama relocation tour. We'll take you all the way across the country. You'll get to see all the most popular places to live. The whole time we'll be educating you about how to get a visa, how to find a rental, how to get your pets here, how to buy a car, how to get health insurance, how to get a driver's license, all the things that you need to know. So you need to come for a visit. It would be a really good idea if you can possibly do it, after our 6-day tour, 6-day, 7-night tour, if you could stay another week and go back to the area that you like the best. I can tell you a lot of people, when they come on our tour, they say, I want to live at the beach. And then they see the beach, they see how hot and humid it is, and they say, it's not for me. So they change their mind. Some people say, I want to live in Boquete or Volcan. And they come here and say, it's too cold, it's too chilly. And, for whatever reason, it's not for them. So whatever area you think you want to move to, it might change during the tour. 50% of the time it changes. Also, 50% of the time when people move to Panama, they move to a certain area thinking that's exactly where they want to be. And then half the time they move to a different area. Sometimes 2 or 3 times or 4 times they have to move until they find the sweet spot on where they really want to live. Maybe it's too hot, maybe it's too cold, maybe it's too rainy, maybe it's too humid, maybe it's too noisy with dogs barking. There can be all kinds of different reasons that you're going to move. That's one of the reasons we highly recommend that you just rent for at least the first year whenever you come here, because you may be moving 6 months after you arrive if for some reason it's not what you wanted to do. I have to tell you a crazy story of something that happened today. I got an email from someone that moved to Coronado, and she wanted to know, well, where's the hospital? And I said, well, there's no hospital in Coronado. There's a clinic. The San Fernando clinic is just at the entrance going into the gated part of Coronado, but there is no hospital. I said, the closest hospital is in San Carlos. There's a public hospital there, or you can go to Pensionado. There's a public hospital there, but for a private hospital, you're going to have to go all the way to Coronado. All the way to Panama City, which is about a 2-hour drive from Coronado. So these are the kind of things that need to be researched before you move to an area. If you have some pre-existing health conditions, you probably want to be close to hospital. Another lady, her and her husband, they were really wanting to move to Panama, and her husband came on a Panama relocation tour, but she didn't come. And he made the decision that they were going to move to this certain area, and I won't say where it is. And so, he rushed right into buying a house. He didn't take my advice and rent first. He rushed right into buying a house, and the wife was miserable there. There was no social activity. It was very, very seldom there was any social activity. Had to drive an hour and a half to the closest grocery store, and he was in hog heaven, as they say in Texas. He loved it there, but she didn't like it there. So what happens? They get a divorce. So that's why it's really important when you come on a tour, if you're married or if you have a partner that's moving with you, it's real important for both of you to come and check out Panama, and don't let just one person make a decision about moving to Panama, because if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy, and you may end up leaving just because one person likes it and everybody else doesn't. So whenever you come to Panama for that visit, of course, the first thing is to verify if you even like it. The other thing is determine which area do you like the best. And that area could be based on the weather. It could be based on the amenities that are available, how close you are to a hospital. It could be based on the social activities that are available. I know some people like a lot of live music and happy hours every single night, and there are certain towns that that's going to be available. There's other towns where that's not available at all. So you need to decide, back to that list of making must-have deal breakers, what's important to you, and then you have to match the right town to what is going to be available to you. Some of you want to be part of a church family, and there's some areas that have very active church families, missionary work, lots of activities, Bible studies. Other areas don't have that. So you need to find out who has the things that you're looking for. Next week, I have a new article coming up called How to Find Your Tribe in Panama. So it'll give you some tips on how to find the places that match what it is that you're looking for. One other, was talking about, and while you come for that visit, you might want to meet with an immigration attorney. If you come on a Panama relocation tour, you'll have an opportunity to meet with an immigration attorney. They're going to talk to you a little bit. You'll have time to ask some questions. And then, but it's important whenever you come here, if you haven't already talked and set up an appointment with an immigration attorney, then talk to them whenever you're here. Let me tell you one more story, and then I'll go on to number 4. We had another tour where a couple was moving with their son, and for one reason or another, they wanted to save a little bit of money. Only the husband came, and he decided, this is perfect. I love it. His wife was from a Latin American country, and he thought she would love it too, because it would remind her of home. So they moved here, and they moved 2 shipping containers, which are very, very expensive, like $15,000, $20,000 to move a shipping container. So they moved 2 shipping containers. They had to find a house where they could put all that stuff, and they moved here. Within about 30 days, his wife was not happy. She didn't like it. She wanted to move back to Florida. So what did they do? They had a great big garage sale. They sold all that stuff that they shipped down here, and they moved back to Florida because she just was not happy at all. So it's important when you come on a tour, whether you come on our tour, you come for Panama for a visit on your own, bring everybody in the family that's planning to move to Panama so you can get feedback from all of the different people. And then number 4, once you've come to Panama for a visit, and you've determined that it's right for you, you've kind of honed in on which area that you want to move to. Of course, you probably don't have a rental already picked out, but you're going to at least know which area that you like the best. You checked out the grocery store. It has the kind of food you like. You visited the hospital. You visited an immigration attorney. So you've determined this Panama thing, it's got to work for me. So what's the next step? The next step is to set your date on when you're going to move to Panama and start preparing for your move. So preparing for your move, you may want to downsize and just start having estate sales and garage sales and getting rid of things. that you're not going to bring to Panama, but also there may be certain things that you want to bring with you. So set those aside in one room or in one closet. Start setting aside the things that you want to bring with you. You'll also need to make a decision. Are you going to ship a shipping container, a 40-foot, a 20-foot shipping container? It's quite expensive to do that, and some people want to do that. Some people move to Panama with two suitcases. That's what I did. I moved to Panama with two suitcases and a cat. Other people decide that they can get rid of all their furniture and all those things because it's probably not going to fit right it's not going to look right in their Panama home anyway. But there are certain things like maybe Christmas ornaments or some cookware or certain things that they want to ship down. So they ship down like 10 totes or 20 totes or 30 of those big plastic totes of things. We did a live stream last month or a couple months ago with a guy that owns a mail forwarding company, and he showed you how you can get all those totes to Panama and then they're delivered right to your house. So you don't have to leave everything that you've spent your whole life accumulating. If there's things that are really important to you, set those aside, and there's a way to get them here. You don't have to worry about that. But part of preparing for your move is deciding what are you going to bring, what are you going to get rid of. Maybe you're going to give some things to your children. If you have children, for them to save it, or for just as a keepsake for them to have it. And maybe you just want to get rid of it to raise a little bit of extra money for your move to Panama. Also, decide the things that you absolutely have to bring with you. If you have pets that are coming with you, you need to know that for pets, they have to have all their vaccines. They have to have an international health certificate to be able to move here. But before you can get the international health certificate, 30 days before that, they have to be all caught up on all their vaccines, rabies, and all those other vaccines. So we have information on our website about what vaccines they need. And most veterinarians are going to know what pets need to have to get an international health certificate. But it's a time-sensitive process if you're bringing pets. You have to get the vaccines, you have to get the international health certificate just 10 days before you're traveling. It can't be 15 days, can't be 30 days. It has to be 10 days before you're traveling if they're coming on a commercial flight. Also, can they even come on a commercial flight? Some pets, if they're small enough and less than 20 pounds, they think they can go underneath the seat in front of you. If they're a bigger pet, like a German Shepherd, it's going to have to go in cargo. Well, some airlines don't do pets in cargo anymore. So you need to figure out which airline can you use. Copa Airlines, Delta Airlines, which pet are you going to be able to get your pet on? Or will you have to use a pet relocation service to get your pets here if they're bigger? Or some people even charter their own flight to move their pets down here so they don't have to go in cargo, so they can be in the cabin with them. You're looking at probably $25,000 from the United States if you charter a flight to get them here. So these things all need to be figured out before you, in that whole process of getting everything ready. You haven't got your documents yet, but you're just downsizing, deciding, am I going to bring my pets? What am I going to bring with me? All those things need to be decided. If you have a house, are you going to sell your house? When are you going to put it on the market? And you have to talk to some real estate agents and determine, what are the average number of days on the market for a house to sell? Well, what if it sells really fast before you're ready to make your move? You may have to move into an Airbnb or get an apartment someplace if you're not ready to move right away. But at least you know the house is sold, part's taken care of. If you're a renter, you may need to give notice to your landlord that on the date that you're planning to move to Panama and when you're going to be able to move. And then the fifth step on moving to Panama is to start gathering your documents for getting a visa. But before you even do that, you need to go ahead and contact an immigration attorney and retain them or hire them. Some people are going to want a $100 retainer fee. Some people just send you a contract. They're going to all send you a list of documents that you need to gather up. But you need to decide which immigration attorney you're going to work with. my suggestion is to work with an immigration attorney that's close to where you're going to live. So if you're going to be moving to Panama City, you probably want to work with an immigration attorney in Panama City. If you're going to be moving to the Coronado area, you could use an immigration attorney that can service you in the Panama in an immigration office. If you're moving to Cherokee Province, like Boquete, Volcan, Las Lajas, David, there's an immigration office there. So you probably want to use an immigration attorney that's close to the immigration office where you're going to do. You should know that not every town has an immigration office. For example, in Boquete, where I live, there's no immigration office here. So any attorneys you hire in Boquete are going to charge extra if they have to go down to David. So it might make more sense to hire an attorney that is close to the immigration office where you plan to live. So you're going to have to get, you need to be aware that the documents that you gather for getting a residency visa, when you apply for the visa, they cannot be more than 6 months old. So it's real important that you don't get the documents too fast. And it may take 30 days to get some of the documents that you need. So you don't want to start too late. Your immigration attorney is going to be able to give you some advice about that. Just an example of some of the things you're going to need is that national criminal report, like an FBI report or RCMP. You're also, if you're getting the Pensionado visa, you're going to need income verification. If you're married, you're going to need a certified copy of your marriage certificate. And if you got married in some place like the Bahamas, it may be a little more complicated to get that certified copy of your marriage certificate. Your immigration attorney can certainly help you with how to get the certified copy regardless of where you got married. You don't need a birth certificate if you're an adult, but if you have minor children that are moving with you, you're going to need a certified copy of their birth certificate. Reminder, none of these documents can be more than 6 months old when you apply for your visa. Also, once you gather all your documents, they're going to have to be authenticated. And you can either get them authenticated at the Panama consulate that's closest to you, or you could get them apostilled if you live in a country that has apostille. By the way, in Canada, starting in January, they're going to have apostille that's available for you, and that's a special authentication of the documents. You can completely skip the Panama consulate if you live in Canada. So once you gather all your documents, they have to be either authenticated or apostilled, and your immigration attorney will give you more information about that. We also have details about both of those in our online Panama relocation guide. The process, where to send it, how to do it, is all in the documents. Ideally, once the documents are authenticated or apostilled, they should be sent to your immigration attorney in Panama. The reason for that is if you got an authentication at the Panama consulate, there has to be an additional authentication done here in Panama by the Ministry of Foreign Relations. Of course, your attorney will take care of all that. They can do it before you even get here if you send the documents in advance. But also, before you can even apply for a visa, all the documents have to be translated into Spanish by a certified translator here in Spanish. So once again, your attorney can take care of all those things before you even arrive in Panama. So ideally, you send the documents to your attorney in advance. If you want to hold on to them and bring them with you, just know there's going to be a 1 or 2 week delay in you being able to apply for a visa, because those things have to be done. Also, whenever you're gathering your documents on what you need to get a visa, there's other documents that you should gather up to bring with you to Panama. For example, if your medical records, you should bring those. If you have a life insurance policy, bring that with you. If you have maybe recent bank statement, you can usually get those online, but you might want to bring a recent bank statement or any other kind of records. Bank letters is another thing that you'll want to bring with you. So gather up all the documents that you want to bring with you. And if you're planning to open up a bank account in Panama, you want to bring a bank reference letter also. And some banks, they'll say, well, we don't issue bank reference letters. They may have a different name for it at the bank that you do. Basically, it's just a verification that you have, that you Did you have an account with them? And when you open the account, it's super simple, and banks will do that. But you're going to need that letter if you want to open up a bank account in Panama. So once again, everybody, I'm going to take your questions. I have 2 more topics to talk about, and then I'll start taking your questions about any of the things that I've talked about. So the 6th thing that you need to do after you start gathering up all your documents, the 6th thing that you need to do is start on the transition of moving to Panama before you even actually move here. So what do I mean by that? So right now, you have all of your bank statements, credit card statements, Social Security, and all those things. It's the address of where you live right now. Well, you need to establish an address someplace else. So you probably want to contact one of the mail forwarding companies here in Panama. We have a complete list of those in our online guide. It doesn't cost anything, but just tell them I'm moving to Panama, I'm moving to this town, and I'd like to get an address in the United States so I can go ahead and do mail forwarding to get all my mail moved over to that particular address. Now, this is an important thing. If you think you're going to be moving to Coronado, you need to use a mail forwarding company in Coronado. If you're moving to Panama City, you need to use one of the mail forwarding companies in Panama City. We have a list of those in the online guide. Same thing for the Azuara, Boquete, Volcan, Bocas del Toro. Wherever you're moving to, you want to use a company that's close to where you're going to be living. So you want to go ahead and in number 6, you want to start doing that transition of doing mail forwarding for some of your mail. Also, if you don't already have it, you need to put WhatsApp on your phone and start inviting your friends to get on WhatsApp. And now, if you're planning to keep your U.S. phone number, you need to decide, or your Canadian phone number, you need to decide how you're going to do that. Are you going to keep on paying those high fees for the service in the country where you are? Are you going to switch it over to something like Google Voice, where you can keep your number, but people can still call you on that number, but you're not going to be able, you won't have those big expensive fees anymore. So what are some of the reasons that you might want to keep your number or switch it to a different number, like get a dedicated number through Skype or some other company where you can get a different number? If you plan to keep your number or get a new one, you're going to have to make sure that you put on your bank accounts, credit card companies, and all those kind of things, what is that new number? Because many of them have to send you a special code for you to be able to make a wire transfer or for you to be able to do something else. Perhaps you want to use a phone number for your kids if you have kids that are going to be staying in the country where you are. But somehow you've got to be able to still be able to get those authentication codes for you to do wire transfers and any other transactions that you might want to do with banking. So decide, are you going to use Google Voice? You're going to use some other service, get a dedicated number from Skype or some other company, or are you going to list your kids as the phone number on there instead, and the code, you just call your kids and say, hey, I'm sending you a code, and they'll look and they'll tell you what the code is, and you can put it in. So you need to decide how are you going to handle the code situation. So besides forwarding the address, if you don't already have it, you need to get a credit card that has no foreign transaction fees. You may be able to get that through your bank, or you might want to get it through a company like Charles Schwab or Fidelity, where you can use a debit card or a credit card, and if there's any foreign transaction fees, they're reimbursed. There's other companies like Chase that you can get a credit card with them, and there's just no foreign transaction fees, plus you get points also. So if you have a credit card right now with the bank that you're with, but it has foreign transaction fees, you don't want to be using that in Panama because it can really get expensive to do that. Same thing if you have a debit card with the bank where you are. When you go to an ATM machine in Panama and you're using a foreign debit card, you can only get $250, and it costs $6.50 to get $250. So you definitely want to have a debit card for you to be able to get access to cash that does not have any foreign transaction fees or that they reimburse you for it. So this is all part of your transition. Now, one thing that I didn't mention is when do you notify your family? When do you tell your family and your friends and your kids, hey, I'm moving to Panama? Because I can tell you right now, as soon as you start telling them, they're going to say, what? You're going to get kidnapped. What about the cartel? You're going to hear all these crazy things. So some people want to tell their family right away, hey, I went to Panama. I love it. I'm moving there. Other people kind of wait for a while until they break the news to their friends and family that they're moving. But you may want to have a farewell party a few weeks or a month before you move and invite all your family and friends to come over for your final farewell. So the next thing that you have to do, I'm looking at the notes real quick. Oh, the other thing that's really important is whenever you move to Panama, you're going to be probably staying in Airbnb for the first 30 days, and then you're going to be looking for your long-term lease, 6 months, 1-year lease. How are you going to pay for it? If you probably don't have a bank account in Panama, but you need to figure out how you're going to get money to Panama. So you need to go to your bank and say, I'm moving to Panama. I'm going to need to be able to wire money to pay for my rent. I may open up a Panama bank account or wire money into my Panama bank account to open it. You may want to set up an account with Wise, WISE.com, which is kind of an intermediary for moving money. I don't have a Wise account. I just use bank to bank. It's quick and easy, and usually I have my money in an hour. But you need to go to your bank and find out, how can I wire money to Panama? You might be surprised to find out that some banks, and especially some credit unions, they won't do wires to an international bank. So you need to find that out before you move to Panama. You don't want the unpleasant surprise of learning that you're here, but you have no access to your money whenever you get here. Also, if you just have a savings account where you are right now, if you're in the United States, if you have a checking account, you can deposit a U.S. check into your bank in Panama. Some banks, some banks have a limit of $3,000 a month. Some banks, they don't care. You can deposit any amount. You can just write a U.S. check and deposit that into your account. So you don't already have some checks that you can bring with you to Panama. You want to get some checks and get an account where you can get a checking account and get some checks. And that's a good way to move money into your Panama bank account without any wire fees. So that'll save some money. But go to your bank and find out how can you wire money either to your account in Panama, or let's say you just rented a house. You just got here. You don't have a Panama bank account yet, but you found the perfect house and you need to wire money to the landlord's Panama bank account. You need the first month's and a security deposit, so maybe a couple $1,000 that needs to be wired to the landlord. How are you going to get that money there? So have that conversation with your bank. I can tell you that landlords in Panama, they're not going to take credit cards unless it's Airbnb, of course. They're not going to take a check from a different, they just won't take a check. So it's going to have to be cash. You could bring a bunch of cash with you to pay for that first rental that you get. But you need to decide how you're going to do that, how you're going to pay for your rental. And then step number 7 is the big day comes and you're moving to Panama. Of course, in step number 6, part of that transition is you book your flight to come to Panama. If you're bringing pets, you book a flight for your other option. You need to already have your flight. You're going to move to Panama. My suggestion is that you plan to stay in an Airbnb for at least 30 days when you first move here. Absolutely do not rent a house long-term for 6 months or a year without going to physically see it first. So that's why I suggest you stay in an Airbnb for 2 weeks or 4 weeks, and it give you time to go look at rental properties that you could potentially move into. You need to see it first. You may, if you're moving with pets, you may want to even make a special trip down to Panama, find the rental first, and then the next time you come to Panama, whenever you bring your pet with you, then you'll already know exactly where you're going to move to with your pet. If you come here, you can even already have pet food, a litter box, or whatever, pet bed, whatever that they like, already going to be there. So it's also, in my opinion, we talked about this last week. I think it's much easier for you to apply for your visa after you've already moved to Panama. You get settled into your rental, the groceries, you've been to the grocery store, you've gotten calmed down from all the activities before moving, because there's going to be a lot of moving parts just before you move. But if you get into your rental, give it about a month, at least 2 weeks, and then have that date set up, scheduled with your immigration attorney on when you're going to apply for your visa. The other thing that you might want to consider if you're moving to Panama and if you're planning to bring a shipping container full of stuff, you may want to put all those things in the shipping container in just a storage building for the first 6 months that you're here. It just gives you a chance to do a test drive, make sure you absolutely love Panama before you go to the expense of shipping all of your things down here. You may even want to just rent your house out for the first year that you're in Panama to make sure that you like Panama before you sell your house and get rid of it, because then you wouldn't have anything to move back to. And then finally, I just want to comment that, some people move to Panama and they're here forever. They don't plan to ever leave. That's me. That's a lot of people that I know. Other people, they move to Panama and they say, well, I want to live in Panama for 3 years, and then I want to move to Portugal or Mexico or Ecuador or some other country and live there for 3 years. And then I want to do it again. Or maybe you have a health issue that comes up and you need to move back to your country so that you can be close to your family. Or perhaps a family member has a very serious health problem and you need to go back to take care of them for one reason. So regardless of what your plans are to move to Panama and live here indefinitely, just know that those plans could change. Even if you're planning to be here forever, it might not work out. You might have to go back to help a family member, or because of some medical conditions, you might have to go back for a little while or for long term. But, I think there's a saying that we make plans and God laughs, because we don't know what's going to happen in the future. So I hope that my 7 steps to moving to Panama, I know it was a lot of information. Just know that tomorrow I'm going to type up a web page, and I'm going to have all these things written on there. So if you weren't taking notes like crazy whenever I was talking about all these things, I'll have it all typed up for you tomorrow so you can read about it and also watch the replay again if you want to. Now, if anybody has any questions for me about anything I've talked about today, you're welcome to ask your questions. We have about 15 more minutes. If you please put 3 question marks in front of your question so I can easily identify it as a question. But before I get to the question, I need to lubricate my throat a little bit. So P Guy says, can you own a property without a permanent residency if you're going to come to Panama for 6 months at a time? Yes, you can own a property. You can buy a property in Panama without having visa, without having a permanent visa. I wouldn't advise it, but it's possible to do that. Life happens when you make other plans. John Lennon. I knew there's all kinds of things. We make plans that we're going to be here forever, but things can change. So just know that whenever you come down here. Let me see. Next question. Monique, do you have to get the bank reference letter apostilled or anything like that? The bank reference letter, it's not part of getting a visa. Only the documents that are necessary for getting a visa need to be apostilled or authenticated. A bank reference letter is just the bank. Now, some of the banks here, they're also going to want to see 2 months of statements. They're probably want to see 2 years of tax returns. So if you don't have access to that on your computer to be able to print it out, or you can call your CPA to say, hey, please email it to me. Whenever you're gathering those documents to bring with you, you might want to bring 2 years of tax returns with you also, because you're going to be needing that for getting your bank account set up. Are lawyers vetted regularly? So yes, we do vet our lawyers regularly. We've even had some lawyers that we've removed from our recommended list, and sometimes it's because the attorney that we were working with, they did a really good job, and then their office started expanding, so they hired some other people to work there. The people they hired to work there were not as good as the original person that we were working with, and I would never want somebody to get involved with somebody that wasn't someone that we knew was going to do a good job. So in our online complete Panama relocation guide, we have a list of all of the immigration attorneys that we work with. It also has their fees. So you can pick them based on fees, based on where they're located, all kinds of things. Carrie wants to know how many dogs can I bring on a plane with me. I have 2 small dogs. So if the small dogs are less than 20 pounds, you can only have one in cabin with you. The other one would have to go in cargo. If you want to have them both in cabin with you, you're going to have to bring another person because it's one person, one dog. And also a lot of the airlines have a rule that only 2 or 3 dogs can be in cabin. So you want to make sure and make that reservation. You actually have to make a reservation. I think it's $135 to have a pet in cabin with most airlines. So if you're only one person with 2 dogs, you're going to have to bring a friend with you. I have a minor pre-existing condition. How can I find out if I qualify for health insurance? So if it's a pre-existing condition, if it requires any kind of a medication, or then they're going to exclude that pre-existing condition. That's just the way they do things here in Panama. Now, you should know that even if you can't get health insurance in Panama, there is still the possibility that you can still see a doctor, of course. You can go to a doctor, it's like $15 for a general doctor. A specialist is $40, $50. You can also still use the public healthcare system. But you're just going to have to pay out of pocket anytime you see a doctor or for any medications. Michael wants to know, I know people from California who lived in Panama over 8 years, returned to the U.S., were fined for tax evasion while out of the country. Are there steps to avoid this? Yes, I do know the same thing. I know people that were also fined for tax evasion. This is something that you need to know. If you're a United States citizen, you're required, and for Canadians as well, we actually have some interviews with some CPAs for both Canada and the United States. But if you're a U.S. citizen, you're required to file a tax return every year. You're also required to pay taxes on your worldwide income. So some people think they can move to Panama, they don't ever have to file a tax return, they can make a bunch of money in Panama, I'm not even going to tell the United States about it. They're not going to find out. Well, the United States knows. So if you moved to Panama, you haven't filed a tax return, or you made money and you didn't report it, then yes, you can be fined. You can even be in prison for tax evasion, depending on how much it is. So the steps to avoid it: file a tax return every single year that you're here. Report the money that you make. Remember, if you're a U.S. citizen and if it's active earned income, you can exclude the first $120,000 in income that you make each year, and then you have to pay taxes on anything over that. But even that $120,000, you have to report it first and then say this is part of the foreign earned income exclusion. So file a tax return is how you avoid it. Okay. When you do the flight to Panama to move permanently, I read you need a round trip ticket. How do you handle that? By just buying a one-way ticket. So yes, when you come to visit Panama, remember on our list of things is also you need to visit Panama before you actually make the move. When you visit Panama, you need a round trip ticket. When you move to Panama permanently, you're going to either need a round trip ticket or you can do a one-way ticket. And then there's 2 ways to handle it. There's a thing that you can go to Google and search onward travel, and you can buy for $10. You can buy an onward travel ticket, or you could go just the day before you're going to be traveling. You could go to United Airlines or some airline that you can book a flight and hold it for 24 hours without actually paying for it. And you could print that out and show them, well, you have this ticket, even though you didn't actually buy it. Of course, it's not really the honest and ethical thing to do, but that's what a lot of people do. And I can tell you that, even whenever you move to Panama permanently and you have that round trip ticket, it can be for a year or 2 years later, or maybe around your kid's birthday, or maybe Christmas when you want to go back and visit family. So it doesn't have to be within. So it could be a time whenever you're going to be leaving. Where are going to be type more notes. So tomorrow I'm going to, on our website on PanamaRelocationTours.com, under the blog tab, I'm going to have all the notes for this talk today. Also, I'll post the replay there. So Rich says, single male, retired, 4 to 5K monthly income, documented, available for mid-class home. Are there home owner options within 3 to 5 miles of Boquete? Oh, yes, there's plenty of homes, owner options. I'm not sure what you mean, owner. You mean seller financing options? So there are seller financing options. Getting a mortgage is a little bit harder here in Panama, but you could do that as well. You just need to know that with mortgages, they have to be paid off by the time you're 70. So seller financing is probably a better option. Carol says, I was recently told that banks in the U.S. are starting to require a U.S. address in your name on a utility instead of, for example, using a mail forwarding address in South Dakota. So in South Dakota, it's not necessarily a mail forwarding address, it's a physical address. Also, the mail forwarding in Florida, it's a physical address. So any of those things will work. I have several different U.S. bank accounts, and I have no problem at all with using those addresses. You can also, like a UPS store, you can rent a box there if you want to, but usually these mail forwarding addresses are all that you really need. So Paul says, does my certified marriage certificate need to be within 6 months? So you don't want to use your original marriage certificate. You can't use that. You're probably not going to get it back if you use it. And if you used it, and it would have to be authenticated or apostilled within 6 months before you're going to get your visa. But you need to get a certified marriage certificate from the place where you got married. And usually you go to the Secretary of State if it was in the United States, and you can get your certified marriage certificate there, and they can do the apostille also at the same time. And it cannot be more than 6 months old whenever you apply for your visa. So I covered a lot of territory on the 7 steps to moving to Panama. I hope you've enjoyed this live stream. I hope you learned something new. Please leave some comments below and let us know what you thought about it. And if you have any other questions, just post it in the comments underneath this video, and I'll be glad to answer them tomorrow. I'm going to take the rest of the night off, so I'll answer them tomorrow. But thank you so much for joining me for the live stream. And thank you to all of our regular people that are here every single Saturday learning something new about moving to Panama. We have some new videos coming out. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Then you'll be the first to know when I upload the new videos. Good night, everybody. Have a good weekend.